Welcome on in, golf fans. It's your boy Gsluke here with our round 3 live stream for the Valero Texas Open. Here in this prop and betting preview, going to get you ready for all of your exposure on moving day, both over there for the PGA side and over there for Live Golf Miami for moving day. Give you guys an idea of how to attack some of those prop slips, and of course, with any questions that you have down in the chat. So whether you're already in the live stream or maybe over there a part of the replay crew, go ahead, smash that like button if you haven't already, and go ahead and hit me up with any questions that you have for tomorrow. We're going to start it off with a deep dive of some of the averages from today, get a look at the weather out there for both slates as well, and then try and find some props there on Underdog and Prize Picks to go ahead and attack some value for tomorrow. So yesterday, our Corey Connors prop was the 0.5 hook away from getting us a full cash. Hopefully this time around, we get the 0.5 hook to go away and we can try and get into the profit for moving days. So that is my goal out here for tomorrow. Let's get after it in terms of our exposure. So first thing we're going to focus on, like I was mentioning out there before, would be the averages from round number 2. So round number 1 over there in Miami, same sort of thing, but you can see them over here on the screen. Now, weather for both events is going to be pretty blustery out there for tomorrow. Live Miami was already extremely hard out there for round 1, so those averages are probably going to stay about the same, I'd say, over there for tomorrow's action. Valero Texas Open is going to be a little bit harder to break down because not only do we have moving day pin locations, hole number 17 at Valero is normally moved up over there on moving day as well, but also the cut line and all those lower tier players that aren't going to be going on to the weekend. Now, I think that's what the sports books are going out there and pricing for. The sports books aren't accounting for, though, is what looks like a pretty windy day over there for this HRRR model, and also some pin locations that are a little bit trickier than what you had for round number 2. So a lot of times the round 3 pins are the easiest that you get for the entire week. And while there are a few that are easier, like hole 2, the par 5, that is a very accessible pin. Even hole 3 over here is probably the easiest pin that you get at that par 3. Some of the holes towards the middle end of that front 9 and then the back 9 in particular are really tricky, especially there on that back side of the course. So I think the scoring averages at Valero are probably going to stay about the same. And of course, the wins, the pin locations, maybe making it a little bit harder, but the fact that they're moving up 17 and all the really shitty players getting cut could make up for a lot of that difference as well. So Valero probably the one with more question marks around it when it comes to those scoring conditions, but Live Miami probably going to be consistent from day to day. And just to show you this forecast, this is the PGA forecast that we have up here first. That's where you can see that 15 to even 18 miles an hour of sustained winds. And then the wind gusts are a little bit stronger towards the first half of the day, but they are going to be going off in threesomes off of both tees. So they're all going to be teeing off at pretty much the same time. So the first tee time is, I believe, at about 11 a.m. Eastern time, which is 10 a.m. over there at San Antonio for this event. But they're going to be teeing off between 10 and then 12 over there for local time. So there's going to be little to no difference when it comes to those conditions tomorrow. And just to show you what we have over here in Miami, conditions really tough, like what you had for today. Wind gusts close to 20 miles an hour for most of the day, and sustained winds close to about 15 miles an hour. So it might not be as windy as what you had for round 1. I mean, I was out there today myself on the golf course. It was pretty brutal out there for almost the entire round, but it's still tough conditions. So on the live side, I'd say it plays 1.5, 2 strokes over par. Then for Valero, yeah, I'd probably have to give a bigger range for it, but probably something at least around half a stroke under par to maybe like 1.25 under par, something like that. So that should give you guys a decent idea of what to expect for these different courses. But in terms of these pin locations, a few other ones I wanted to point out. Hole 16 is in that back right corner on top of a shelf. That is one of the harder pin locations that I wanted to point out. Hole 12 is on a very small section of that green over there, so that's another one that was tricky. Hole 8 is a par 5, but that is up on that back shelf, just like it was for round 1. If you remember, that one gave people problems even making par there. So that one could be one to keep an eye on. And then holes like 4 and 5, those are by far the hardest pins that you get at those holes. That's why I don't think scoring is going to get out of touch. And, but not to get too far ahead of ourselves over here, these sports books, they're pricing it like the pins are going to be super easy. So I don't necessarily agree with these sports books entirely. I would probably have it priced 0.5 to maybe even a stroke higher out there on a lot of players, which when we get to the sportsbook odds and the props over here on Prize Picks and Underdog could give us some value, because what you'll see over here, especially on Prize Picks, is that they copy and pasted the board essentially based on what the sports books posted. So, right, if I don't agree with these sort of odds, I think they should be 0.5 to a stroke higher in some cases, then that means there's probably going to be some value on some fades. So we're actually going to start off with the live golf props first, just because those were the first ones posted. And you can see over here, right, a little sneak peek at the prop we're about to go through here. It's going to be Mito Pereira for an over at 73 strokes. But before we go through all the details there and all the props I'm looking at over there on the PGA side, do want to remind you guys where you guys can find all of these slips that I'm posting. And that, of course, would be over there on my Patreon page. On my Patreon page, I post every single slip as I'm entering them. So that'd be for like Underdog at Prize Picks. But it is also where I'm posting these spreadsheets for DFS. So over there for Draftkings DFS, you've probably seen my live streams over there on the Ship It Nation channel. I still do all my projections myself outside of what I do working with over there with Ship It Nation. So we got my projected points, modeling, ownership out there for Showdown, and of course, those player pool tags. And I had to scroll down to the bottom here because I can't show you guys the entire player pool. It wouldn't be right to all my paying members over there, but to show you guys some of the player pool tags that I work off of. We've got ball striking, we've got short game regression candidates, course history, and then also high upside players. And to give you the goods over here on Dixon's normally one of the best putters that you had in all the Corn Ferry Tour last year, and he lost strokes putting over there for today. So the kind of player that I expect to rebound in that category. You're getting sub 1% ownership, and in Showdown, right, you got to get some nasty plays over there to your player pool. So for all the slips, you can find that on my Patreon page, right? That's over there on the prop side of things, but just a friendly reminder over there for DFS and Draftkings, and I'm covering all of that as well. So we'll talk about our slips now. We'll talk about the Mito Pereira prop that I was teasing out there before. And like I said before, hit me with any questions that you've got, because we're going to try and get through this rather quickly. What's going on? Barry says, you think that Ludwig needed the weekend off? Yeah, I agree with that. He wasn't putting well as well. Like, he was hitting the ball okay at times, had some really errant shots mixed in. But when you're just playing okay from tee to green, then you're missing your 4 or 5 footers. Like you said, it's a weekend off out there for Ludwig. Thomas says, smash a leg bun. Absolutely. Live event was a lot of fun, man. It was the usual. I've been down there quite a few times, so it wasn't like my first time at one of those events. Tomorrow, though, I'm going to try and get there a little bit earlier so that I can watch them on the range, because today I had some obligations in the morning when it came to recording some content with my boy Tambellini this morning. But afterwards, I was able to get out there, watch the second half of the Live Golf today. Tomorrow, I'm going to try and watch the range, get a scouting report on some of the guys heading to Augusta, which I'm thoroughly looking forward to. So it was fun, but tomorrow will be better. What's going on? Antonio said Burns 100% wanted the weekend off too. Yeah, I mean, he tried to hit the ball out of the water on 18, so that triple bogey probably looks a lot worse than what it actually was. He had to par that hole to make the weekend, so, you know, he hit the second shot into the water. He was going for the made cut. Had to try and he didn't have to get up and down, but he just had to get the ball out of the water. And I didn't get to see the shot. I don't know if they got it on camera or anything like that. But yeah, hit it in the water, out of the water and then into the water again. So unfortunate for him, but he's had worse stuff happen, right? Missed cuts happen to even the best players. Thoughts on Jordan Spieth? So I didn't like him for round 2 just because I thought he'd get some steam. Round 3 is the perfect bounce back spot. He's got really good course history. Shots gained metrics didn't look particularly good out there for round number 2. But if you're going to play him, it's as a bounce back. So you're not really always looking for the shots gained metrics when you're looking for that sort of play. So unfortunately, because he's in that 9K range, he's going to get ownership by default. So, you know, somebody like that in the 6-7K range would probably be lower owned in a leverage play. But you still have the pedigree of a Jordan Spieth there. So it's, I think, a decent play, especially from the Showdown perspective, but it comes with a little bit of risk. Berger's lurking and is playing well. Illini fan, I've got to agree with you there, man. I took him for the top 10 bet this week. I thought the form, the pedigree in general was just kind of getting a little bit overlooked. We'll see if he can continue it out there for the next few days. And I got to say, he was actually somebody I was looking at for a potential under on birdies, but I've been a little bit gun shy with wanting to go out there and bet it myself because he's a player that I could see going out there and having a big day. So you can see him over there at 4.5 birdies. The reason why I was eyeing that one up is over here in Caesars William Hill, he's minus 130 for his under. Now, that's not like massive plus EV odds or anything like that. If he was like minus 160 towards the under, I probably would have entered this as a two-man slip out there between these two props there. But Daniel Berger, I have belief in him, hence the top 10 bet that I took for him at. I was a 2-unit bet that I put out there on Daniel Berger this week. So we'll see. Probably at least going to be in consideration still just because of that minus 130 odds. And the birdie average, I think it's going to be 3.75, maybe like 4 per round tomorrow. If it's in that sort of range, I mean, he's got to gain a birdie to the field. Today, he was a little bit putter heavy. I bet him for an under on strokes, which was great. Hit me for a slip. I put in him and Denny for the under at 71.5. Actually, the two from the live stream yesterday. So if he tailed those two together, they both ended up going under that 71.5 number. But Berger, I mean, he easily went under. So it wasn't always, or wasn't all the putter that put him under that sort of number, but he made a lot of 15 to 20 footers out there for birdie. So that's why I like the under. He only went over by 0.5 today, despite putting like that. So we'll see. It's at least going to be in consideration out there for Berger. But like you said, man, like he's playing well, he's lurking. That's the argument against him. In fact, so much so that I've held off on entering that to this point. But this Mito prop, I'm 100% going to be entering. The scoring average was 2.5 over par over there for Liv. By the way, it's a par 72 over there at the Blue Monster. Just a brute of a golf course. And they played it completely tipped out. Now, the one thing that might make it easier is them seeing the 2.5 over par scoring average and going, maybe we move up some tee boxes to try and make it easier. But even if they do that, it's playing at least like 1.5 strokes over par, right? Hence, I said 1.5, maybe 2 strokes over par out there for the scoring average. Mito Pereira has been an average to well below average player on the Live Tour pretty much since he got over there, and especially over his last 6 months or so. So at 73 strokes, that's a +1 projection at this par 72. He could have a better than average day, shoot a +2, which is 0.5 strokes, 0.4 strokes, better than the field average. It still hit the over on this. He could gain 1.5 strokes to the field and only push this sort of line. A player that's been average to below average, you can see why I'd be on that sort of over. So, and the beauty of these slates where we have the Live and the PGA props to work with is we can mix them across site to site. So we've got this Mito Pereira prop that I was looking at, right? Maybe we take this under out there on Daniel Berger. We'll have to see. I'm going to try and see if we can find something better. They didn't have these fairway props posted before, which today, by the way, the fairway average was about 7 per round. If they make 17 drivable, I do think that's going to lower the fairway average quite a bit, just because if you're not familiar with hole 17, that is the super short par 4. It's like 355 yards when it's played to like the middle of that green. And they move it up for round 3 typically and make it about 300 yards. The reason why I say the fairway average is going to go down is that when it's at 350 yards, everyone lays up on that hole. Like you might get a few people that hit driver, try and hit it up there to like 40, 50 yards, but like 80, 90% of the field lays back when they have it at 350. So them moving it up and making it drivable for everyone, right? 300 yards, everyone can get there with the driver. Heck, some players are going to hit 3 woods out there on that hole, especially if it's downwind again, like it was for rounds 1 and 2. It's going to have a lower fairway rate because around the green, there's some rough around hole 17. You can see there's bunkers to the left and that sort of thing. That's maybe like a 0.3, a 0.4 fairway difference right there. So it was about like 7.13 per round today. So the cut, having higher level players is going to help the field, but is it going to help it enough to where you have all these guys projected? Because looking at this, it looks like there might be some unders that could make some sense. Like a Corey Connors, right? We know he's going to go for that green. Like him hitting 9 of the 14, like I could see that because he's very comfortable at this course. He's also a pretty accurate driver. But a Keith Mitchell, he's not that inaccurate off the tee. Let me look at a Matt Wallace. Let me bring up Data Golf real quick. 1 second, guys. And I give a lot of shit to Data Golf because their ownership projections, that sort of thing, suck. But they have really good stat keeping when it comes to the driving stats. So what I'm going to see over here is this right category, this accuracy tab over there for Matt Wallace. And I guess he's been okay with the driving accuracy. Like he has weeks where he loses about 10% to the field. And also has weeks where he's gaining 5 to 10% to the field. So wouldn't call him an accurate guy. Wouldn't call him, an inaccurate guy either, right? Both sides of the spectrum. He's pretty close to the middle. I think it's going to be just lower than a 7 fairway average. So, right, maybe you'd lean on the under over there at 7. But if he had been at 7.5 fairways, like that would have been a really good spot. Now, there's not a lot of books where we get them posting fairway lines, but it does look like they have them posted over here in Caesars. So let's see what they have up. So 7.5 on Keegan, and he's juiced over. Tommy Fleetwood is juiced under at 8.5. Same writers at 7.5 on this book too. You can see that minus 140 odds there. Let's see if there's anyone else. So Burgers at 8.5 and juiced over. Then yeah, Matt Wallace 7.5 and minus 155 under. If we could get him at 7.5 as opposed to 7, that would have been such a better spot to go out there and play. Now, I don't know if the sports books are really counting for the fact that that 17 is likely going to be moved up. But let me look at Ryo Hisatune. I've always thought that he was an accurate driver, but I guess let's double check that real quick. Yeah, I mean, look at that, right? He's been hitting a ton of fairways lately. By the way, cheers out there. Completely forgot I had some whiskey in the cup here. So cheers. Is Ryo a legit guy now? Seems like he's in the top 10 like every week. I think he's always been a legit player. I mean, DP World Tour, he was a stud over there on that side. I just think he's having a good month. You're always going to see those guys kind of like be the flavor of the month at any given time. It's just Hisatune's good month on the PGA Tour. So he'll probably regress back to the mean at some point, but definitely somebody that's been a standout player for quite some time, especially overseas. Bradley, less than birdies for the Collie matchup. So yeah, he's going against Collie. Collie's got some of the best form of anyone in the field. That 0.5 gets added to Collie's score, which is a part of the reason why you'd be looking at an under. Yeah, these matchups weren't posted before, and kind of just doing a quick look through on them. I'm not against the Mitchell under either. I mean, Eric Cole's a more than capable birdie maker. Let's see. I mean, Cantlay versus Corey Connors, like even that one, right? Corey Connors just making the cut. He's got to be aggressive. Patrick Cantlay just had the big day nuke round, right? Moving up the board. That one would probably even be like a lean towards the under. Yeah, I mean, that Keegan versus Collie one I could see. I don't know if it's like a massive edge where I'm like going out there and running to want to play it. Same thing with like that Cantlay versus Corey Connors one. Like, I don't think that's a massive edge by any means, but it's definitely a lean towards the under and a lot of these different matchups that you have on the board here. So Mitchell one you would throw in there as well. Then let's look at the bottom two. Like even the Fleetwood versus Ricky one. Fleetwood, great player, but does not make a ton of birdies. He's more of a bogey avoider than an elite bogey avoider than he is like an elite birdie maker. And then you have Ricky Fowler, who, I mean, he made like 8 birdies today. He was super aggressive, really good putting lately. Seemingly has figured it out with a new style putter. Like that's even an under that I would consider between those two. So I don't know if it's a big enough edge to play those. I'm never really a massive fan of these birdie or better matchups. When I'll bet one of these matchups is when the guy that's the 0.5 side, right? The, I guess, opponent down there at the bottom, when they're a better birdie maker than the guy on the top. If you're giving me the 0.5 and they're the better birdie maker, I'll bet that matchup all day. But when it's like just like a slight edge between the two like this, the guy on top in all 4 of these different cases is the better player, right? So I don't think it's like completely mispriced. It's just that I think it's closer than you would indicate out there at that 0.5. So yeah, good shout on that Keegan Bradley one. Would definitely lean towards the under. But based on what I've seen so far, and we're not done doing our deep dive by any means over here, this burger prop might be my favorite so far. And I hate to bet against my guy because I have so much exposure on him this week. But even with like a -2 round, I mean, 4 birdies is going to be by far the most likely outcome, I'd say, out there for the field. Like 3 or 4 birdies is what we're going to see most players getting to. And after having a lot of putts drop out there in round 2, I'm definitely leaning towards him going that way. So you're looking at Cantlay less than birdies on Connors. I'm with you on that one too. Like those are one of the 4 matchups that I think you would lean on towards the under. And that category in general, it's hard to want to play overs with that 0.5 because the tie, of course, just screws you there. Who's going out there and shooting a really low score tomorrow? If I just had to pick one guy, Thomas, that's definitely a tough question. If I'm just only allowed 1 bullet out there for it. If I had to pick one player to go out there and shoot a low score, it'd be Jordan Spieth. He's got the course history, had the low round today. It was an extremely variant round, a lot of birdies, a lot of bogeys he made out there in round number 2. It's Jordan, clean it up a little bit, make a lot of birdies like he did today, and he's right there. Can't believe you're saying this, but Cam Young looks good this week. Yeah, so I played him in GPP lineups, so let's hope that we didn't mush him there by saying that. So I'm knocking on my wooden desk over here to hopefully reverse that. but he does look good. His putter has been solid in 2025. The putter was the huge issue last year. It's what everyone was kind of focusing on. This year, he's corrected that. He's gaining to the field here in 2025. Issues in the approach play lately. In fact, I think it's like his last 5 events, he's lost strokes to the field with his irons. He gets that figured out, and he could be in a really good spot. So I think he's closer than most people realize, hence why I played him this week. And yeah, he gets the irons going. Gains like 2 strokes in that category. Could be a super low round. And I say could because I want to emphasize that it's far from a for sure thing, right? You got T Money says, does Harman have the win in the bag? It's tough not to say. It's tough to argue against it, right? I mean, he's up there with like a 5-6 shot lead at this point. I would say that there's still 36 holes left, right? A lot can change over that sample, but he's the deserving favorite, right? He's close to like a 40% implied win equity out there on sports books. In reality, probably closer to like a 25-30% win rate out there in that position. So does he have it in the bag? No, he doesn't. Like realistically, he probably wins this like a third of the time out there from that sort of spot, but he's got by far the best chance of anyone to go out there and win. So we'll see how it all plays out. Does Tommy have a good Saturday round after the up and down average round today? So that's always the existential question, right? And it was really the putting and short game that held him back today. So I'm a believer in Tommy. I'll just tell you, I'm playing him out there in lineups tomorrow. Same thing with Corey Connors. Like Corey Connors just could not make anything today. It was so frustrating for that over 3.5 birdies that we took. He had 2 misses within 5 feet that he lipped out like viciously. Like it hit the lip and it ended up lipping out like 5-6 feet to the side. And then he had tons of putts from like 10 to 20 feet where he didn't hit the lip of the hole, but he got damn close to doing so. I really expect him to bounce back because of all those putts that he was missing. And then same thing with Fleetwood. Fleetwood top 10 at this event last year. Ball striking was just fine out there today. Just lost around the green and lost putting, which is going to happen occasionally for guys like Fleetwood and Connors. They're more ball striking heavy players to begin with, but yeah, I like those two for sure. Keith over 4 birdies. Okay. You heard it from Dave himself first. You're trying not to watch Harman all weekend. Oh, you're telling me, man. And it feels like he's getting a little better when it comes to the waggles, but for the longest time, he's been on my shit list when it comes to pace of play. So I'm there with you. Unfortunately, even if he shoots like 3 over par, he's going to be in contention for Sunday. I mean, he's -9. You imagine maybe he gets passed by a player or two heading into the final day, but he's going to be in the top 5. So I guess we got to get used to seeing him because the next 36 holes, he's going to be featured prominently. But let's find a pairing for this. So we already went through fairways. I thought maybe some unders that you can lean on. Let me look at Carson Young. I am curious about his accuracy. He always seems like a pretty accurate driver of the ball. Let's see if that's, really accurate, actually. In fact, 8 might not even be high enough for a player that looks that accurate off the tee. Let's look at Norlander. And I guess that's it. The rest of these guys are pretty accurate drivers, so maybe not the best guys to target out there for an under. That's why I was hoping to find guys like the Højgaard twins that aren't very accurate off the tee. And then, yeah, same thing with Norlander here. As expected, I thought he was pretty accurate off the tee. And, yeah, you can see that preconception does hold up over there with him. So, I mean, pars are better. I guess we didn't mention this one together. I did look through this one a little bit before myself. These guys are all at 2.5 bogeys or worse. Average today was about 2.77 per round. And after the cut line, I do think it's probably going to stay about the same. And the reason I guess I hesitate is normally you'd say it'd get a little bit easier, but we do have some wins in play. It's just to go over there to the TPC San Antonio one. Right? HRRR's got 15 miles an hour sustained out there for most of the round. And the pin locations, if you're just joining us, we went through them a little bit earlier. They're trickier than today, which is kind of backwards. Normally, round 3 is the easiest pin setup that we have. The added caveat being, though, that 17 is going to be moved up. That's a drivable par 4 pretty much every single year here at the Valero Texas Open. So, yeah, I mean, bogey average, I think it's probably going to stay about 2.77 per round. And given that these guys on Prize Picks that they have for pars or better are mostly above average players, I don't think there's a ton of value there. Now, I kind of want to look at this Hisatuni one because he's like an average player, I would say. And like if the average is going to be like 2.7 per round, maybe he'd be somebody we can take for an under on pars, but let's see what we have here. So like a Ryder's on that same level, and look at that, right? He's -125 out there for the over. your informed guys like a Mitchell Harmon are juiced a little bit towards the under. I guess like Matt Wallace wouldn't be a terrible comp for what we have over there with Hisatune. You can see there, right? He's minus 125 for his over at 2.5 bogeys. So with these guys here on the board, I don't think any of them would really be mega value out there in either direction. So we'll probably stay away from these ones in general, right? Like we even have Matt Wallace out there on the board to go out there and choose. But yeah, based on what we have on here so far, it probably is this Daniel Berger prop that I like the most. Last category I really want to do the full deep dive on would be strokes. And this is where, at least by traditional analysis, right, my gut out there for tomorrow says that these are all like 0.5 to 1 stroke too low. And the reason I say that is I think the scoring average is going to be about the same as what we had for today, which is about 71.24. And if you take a look at this board, a vast majority of it, in fact, outside of just a couple guys like Kuchar, Zach Johnson that you have there at 71.5, are at a worse number than what you have for that average. So we'll talk about Kuchar here in a second. I actually just had an idea over there with the Cooch man. But like the rest of this board, these guys at 70, right, 71 even, could be potential fade candidates. So we'll get back to those here in a second. But Kuchar, let's talk about Cooch man here for a second. I'm going to bring up my spreadsheet here just to show you guys the course history out there on Matt Kuchar. It is unbelievable what he's done around this golf course. And it's not even like in his prime what he's done around this golf course, what Matt Kuchar's done at this golf course recently. So Matt Kuchar has gone missed cut last year. Okay, not great, but 3rd, 2nd, 12th, and then 7th place out there the last 4 years. So he's got 4 top 12 finishes out of the last 5 years. This year, it's not even like he's doing anything that special, right? He just went out there and made the cut. But at 71.5 strokes, I mean, he goes out there and shoots a -1 round. That might be like a half a stroke gain to the field. I don't know if that's the worst play in human history. Like I feel an under at 71.5 could be in play as well. So maybe it doesn't even have to be a fade that we go out there and enter. But these guys that are down there like a stroke lower, a stroke and a half lower, like some of the guys there at 70, I mean, if we can find somebody that is out of form, maybe carrying themselves with a short game a little bit, I'm not against a fade. Now, somebody want to check on Sam Ryder. He's at 70.5. And you can see in round number 2, right, his ball striking was really off. His short game was still there. 70.5 strokes. Let me see if he has a line here on the books. I don't think he does. See, so he does actually have a line on the books, and he's -140 for the over. Like, he could be one of the fades that we take out here on this sort of board. So, in fact, for this first slip that we're playing, we're going to take these top 2 fades. We're going to take the Mito one, which I already told you I love. I think is really, really good value. And then we're going to mix it in with the same Ryder fade there at 70.5. That is -140 for the over. Ball striking was out of play today, right? Not playing his best golf out there with the 2 ball striking categories. And I think the scoring average is going to be about 71 strokes, maybe even a little bit higher than 71, just like it was for today. It means if he has an average round, right, he's shooting the over for us. And an average round isn't a terrible thing, right? It's not like we're saying like, oh, he's going to have some horrible day out there tomorrow. We're just saying he's going to be about the field average, which for guys that made the cut, again, is far from a diss out here on these sort of players. So after having the super low rounds, maybe he has some regression back to the mean, especially after not having his iron play and driving on point. So you got the Mito fade over there. By the way, Mito Pereira shot +6 over there in round number 1. So that's another reason I like fading Mito. It's not just the fact that the form's been off. He also shot +6 today. And just to show you the form, he's had a few decent starts, but he's been very inconsistent over here on the Live Tour, where like T51 is nearly last. I mean, it's over 3 strokes lost per round. Did have a T20, which for him is a pretty good start, but look at all these shots gained lost out there for Mito Pereira. So that's why I like those 2 fades. 2 really good value props, I would say. And now let's see what we have on Underdog, because before we went live, we didn't have anything posted on Underdog, but it does look like they at least posted a PGA board for us. And let me see if they have some Live Golf stuff. It does look like they also have some Live Golf stuff posted, which if I had to guess, it's going to be the exact same board as what they have on Prize Picks. So I'm not expecting any surprises on that side, but maybe over here with Underdog, sometimes they post some stuff a little bit lower. Where we leave off. Thoughts on Connors for the round score 69.5? Oh, that's a pretty low number. You saw my tweet on his putting. I think on Prize Picks, isn't he like 70 strokes or something like that? Like if you're talking about an under, like just get the best line available. But I guess he's at 69.5 on all these different books. What is the number you can get on these? Like, can you get plus money for the under on that sort of thing? Let me see. Okay, I guess I got to type Corey to find him. He's an even money out that sort of number. I don't know. I don't know if I can do it after what I saw today. Thoughts on Justin Rose heading into the weekend? So I always default to the shots gained metrics when I'm asked my take on a player. And Jay Rose today lost in the 2 short game categories. So the kind of player that normally is a really good putter. So I would expect him to improve the shots gained putting out there for round 3. And I mean, if he gains 3 strokes ball striking again, that's exactly what he did for round 2. I mean, that's a nuclear round right there. That's like 4, maybe even 5 shots gained total. If he has a good around the green day as well, I like him a whole lot. Do I like Hall for tomorrow? I do. Shots gained metrics were fantastic. So speaking of guys that gained tee to green but then lost putting, that's what you have there. About 5 strokes over there with the ball striking. I guess we just have to find a prop for him, huh? I don't know if he has anything posted, but we'll double check on that. So he's at 70.5. Let's see, maybe some sportsbook odds we can compare to as well. So yeah, nothing in terms of a line for comparison, but yeah, I like him in general. Not sure if like a prop makes sense for him, but in Showdown, I actually got to him. I think he'll be highly owned out there tomorrow, but I think it might be worth it. Favorite Fanduel play, Harry Hall. I've got to say he's going to have some ownership behind him, but I think he's one of the best plays on the slate. And then can I deep dive the Postman? Yes. So had a really, really rough start to the week, but today was exactly what I was hoping for from JT Poston. I mean, he gained in every category but the putter. And the last 2 weeks, he's gained strokes over there on the greens. Perfect setup stat-wise heading into tomorrow. So JT Postman, I can definitely get behind for some lineups. But let's talk through this underdog board. So, by the way, if you still have any questions, I'll go through them once again. So no rush from that perspective. But going through this board over here, it's actually even a little bit lower than Prize Picks. Like, for example, Jordan Spieth was at 70 over there in Prize Picks. If memory serves me correctly, he's at 69.5 over here. Now, you still have Brian Harman at 71 on both sites, but maybe we can find a few more 0.5 discrepancies. So just going through this a bit, Daniel Berger, let me see where he is on both sites. Is he 70 on both? Yeah, probably, right? Yeah, 70 out there on both of these different prop sites. But if we can find any 0.5 discrepancies on guys that maybe aren't as solid with the shots gained metrics, I wouldn't be against trying to enter anything. So let me see what they have Keegan at. I believe he was 70, right? Yeah, so just like Jordan Spieth, he's there at 70 strokes. You see he's over here at 69.5. So I guess even better than the Prize Pick stuff that we're looking at before. If you're trying to fade anything over here in Underdog, you could probably find some even better lines depending on the player. Now, Sam Ryder is at the same exact number out there regardless of the site. But on a few other players, right, that's where you could find some of that value. So nothing really looks that drastically off. Like they have a few birdie lines up, but they're the exact same as what you had on Prize Picks. We'll have to see if they post any other lines out there throughout the rest of the evening. But like I was saying before, for all the exposure that I'm entering for any given slate, make sure to check out the Patreon page for all of that. That'll include all the underdog slips that end up entering, anything else on Prize Picks that end up playing too. And I mentioned that Kuchar prop potentially being something that I enter. Then over there on the Live Golf side, there's also a couple other fades that I'll probably be entering as well. So make sure to stay posted for all of that. The other thing I wanted to look at were some matchups, and I think this is where we're going to get our exposure to Harry Hall. I know those props maybe weren't the best space, but somebody like Harry Hall that is ball striking as well as he is somebody that I'm actively looking to get exposure to. And this might be one of the better formats to do so. You can see he's going against a Norlander and a Ben James. Ben James, the amateur out of University of Virginia, I believe top 10 in the collegiate ranking. So definitely a high pedigree guy, a young player heading out here on tour. Then you have Norlander at plus 200. I'm not sure if this plus 130 is good enough odds. In fact, let me see what he is over here on Caesars. I doubt it's better. Normally, FanDuel has some of the better odds out here for these 3 balls, but I guess you never know. We'll do our due diligence. So yeah, plus 130 out there on both sites. It's not like amazing value, I would say, but based on the fact that he gained 5 strokes ball striking, also lost strokes putting. So just to show you the full deep dive on it, I know we didn't talk about the 2 short game categories that much, but him losing nearly 3 strokes there is something that doesn't happen all that often. Maybe that's where we can get some of that exposure. And just to go back to some of the shots gained metrics from today, let's go to the top end of the ball striking board. Let's do some line shopping on a few of these other players. So we could look at Francesco Molinari, but he's kind of a lower tier player. I don't know if I have that much confidence in him, but like a Poston could be another player to do a deep dive. So let's see what JT Poston's at. Plus 160 against Cantlay and Rosner, which, you know, Cantlay I think is kind of due to come back down to earth a little bit. Plus 175. Ooh, look at that. Even better odds over here in FanDuel. these would be 2 3-balls that I haven't bet myself yet. Hard Rock Bet actually hasn't posted the board over there for 3-balls, so I have to see what kind of odds I can get. But if I can get plus 130 or better for Harry Hall, I'd probably bet him. I have to say, Hard Rock Bet's had some pretty favorable odds on these, so there's a chance that he's even posted at higher odds than plus 130. If so, I'll definitely bet that. And then same thing with JT Post. And you give me this plus 175 or better, then I'll be playing that over there for tomorrow. So the thought process out there for my 3-balls and matchups is really similar to what I do out there for Showdown. And for a little bit of an added bonus, you can always go over here to the Bet the Number site, which of course is the sponsor of a lot of this content that I do and this live stream that you're watching right now. And you can do the line shopping for yourself. So we got Poston going against Cantlay and Rosner. We can just put all these players into this little optimizer over here and get a good idea of how they all square up. So we've got all 3 in here. It'll be loading in this event in the first 2 rounds. They've shot the same score, right? Hence why they're matched up out there in the 3-ball. But what you'll see out here is a great comparison. Now, Cantlay is playing the best ball striking wise, but if you take a look at the number 2 in these categories, right, they're all pretty even over there with the approach stats. But second best driver is by far JT Poston. Worst putter of the bunch, right? JT Poston as well. And long-term wise, Poston is the best putter, right, out of these 3 players. So it kind of simplifies the process when you're doing some of those matchups. Let's do the other one as well. So let's look at Hall, Norlander, and then Ben James, who I'm interested to see where they have Ben James on this. So if they even have him on here, actually. So they do have Ben James. Look at that. Bet the Numbers on top of it, having pretty much everyone playing out there in every single field. So Harry Hall and Norlander would be the other 2. So let's go Hall first, then find Norlander. Okay. So you can see Harry Hall in the middle, right? That's obviously the one that I want to bet on. He has the best approach play out of all these different players. And him and Ben James kind of putting the same, right? Just a little bit better than neutral. And if you go down here to the bottom, you take a look at greens regulation, right? Harry Hall's number 1. That's what we really want to see from these players. And he's not making a lot of bogeys. So if we can get that putter to start working, make a few more birdies, he's last in that category, which is kind of mind-blowing because Harry Hall was in top 5 in birdie or better percentage in all the tour last year. This year, he's top 10 on tour out there in birdie or better percentage. So the fact that he's lowest in the group in that category, like I said, is surprising out there to say the least, partially because the putter just hasn't gotten hot to this point. If he does that, he's leading in pretty much all the important categories that we're looking for. That's why those sort of players would make sense from that perspective. So for all the Underdog and Prize Picks props, make sure to check out the Patreon for that, as well as for the DFS projections that you saw for Draftkings before. I'll see if there's any last-second questions that you have down there in chat. If not, we're going to go ahead and cut this thing off. Smash that like button if you guys haven't already, and best of luck with all of your exposure for tomorrow. So you meant for a Fanduel prop. Okay, so do you mean for strokes? Do you mean for like 3-balls, that sort of thing, T-Money? If you're just talking about any bet in general over there on FanDuel, I'd probably go with one of those 3-balls. And the Postman one there at plus 175 might be my favorite. Do I think Cantlay's round score at 69.5 is too low for him? It's at minus 105. Yeah, I mean, in general, I think they're all probably like 0.5 to 1 too low. So if you can get plus money at the 69.5s, I don't know if there's anyone in the field outside of like maybe 1-2 players, but I wouldn't be comfortable with taking that over. So maybe keep an eye on the board, Antonio, see if those drift out there to like plus 100, plus 105, that sort of thing. Because if so, I would gobble those up in a hurry. Thoughts on Keith Mitchell versus Eric Cole? So is that a head-to-head, Daniel? If it is a head-to-head, I would lean towards Keith Mitchell. But if you're talking about a birdie or better matchup and it's like the 0.5, that sort of thing, then Eric Cole's a good birdie maker. I might lean on that side. So kind of depends on the format that you're talking about. Do I like Rogers and Chan Kim for tomorrow? So I do like Rogers, high birdie percentage player, good par 5 scorer. Chan Kim, kind of like a 6 out of 10 on him, because I think that because he was shaky today, his ownership's going to be lower than it was for round 2 showdown, but he's not like the best play on paper. So like I said, 6 out of 10, not terrible for him. Appreciate your time. I appreciate you, Antonio. Best of luck out there tomorrow. He said best golf Twitter account that posts free plays daily. I post free plays over here on my videos, so I'm partial to myself. I would follow those, T-Money. I've got to say, the people on Twitter that are posting those quote-unquote free plays, a lot of times they aren't even entering themselves. A lot of times they're losing bettors long-term. I don't follow anyone. So, you're asking somebody that doesn't follow anyone else's plays. I only play stuff that I believe in myself, that I use with my own research, my own, stuff that I believe in. Now, it's not to say that if a sharp person reaches out to me with like a proven edge that I won't go out there and play it. It's just that, like, especially with like the people on Twitter, that sort of thing, that like post quote unquote free slips, most of them are morons and have no idea what they're doing. In fact, a lot of them out there copy plays from people like myself and then trade them off as their own out there to their audience. In fact, a couple of the big ones that have like over a couple thousand followers over there on Twitter X, I've called out for doing so. So let's just say I don't get along with a lot of those people, so I'm not going to give anyone a shout out, except for Dinger Betts. Dinger Betts is a buddy of mine. I do work with him. I've done collabs with him. We talk about the boards all the time. If you're looking for somebody to follow on top of what I do, I would check out Dinger Betts, because unlike a lot of those other people, he's transparent about his results and he knows his stuff. Like, he doesn't pretend to be some sharp and steal other people's bets. He does all his own stuff. And that's a lot more than these other cappers can say. A lot of them just steal shit. A lot of them my plays too. You saying for birdies are better for that matchup? So yeah, that helps me out with kind of choosing between the two. Yeah, I'd be looking at the under out there on that sort of matchup. Main reason being that 0.5 that Eric Cole gets. They're both pretty close in birdie percentage. Keith Mitchell ranking out a little bit higher than Eric Cole in that category. But Keith Mitchell's in contention, right? He's not going to be as aggressive as an Eric Cole. So that's why I would lean towards the under there. Now, would I bet it myself? Probably not. I don't like these matchups in general, but yeah, I don't think you're too far off on that one. You're feeling a nuclear day for props? Dude, I hope so. It's been a minute. It's been a couple weeks since we've had one of those nuclear days. So why not round 3? Why not with Live and PGA on the docket? It's a good day for it for sure. So that's all I've got, guys. Best of luck with all of your exposure for round 3. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already as well, so you guys can catch all the content to come. That'll include our round 4 live stream out there tomorrow night, going through everything out there for Sunday. I'll be at the Live course, so if there's anyone you guys want me to keep an eye on, feel free to go ahead and let me know over there on Twitter, and I'll try and watch them over there on the range tomorrow. But it should be a fun day of that. We'll have the content over here later on YouTube tonight. And yeah, let's try and have a nuclear day, right? I mean, it's been a while since I've had a full 100% sweep out there on a day. I guess we're due out there for moving day. So let's try and make it a good one. Best of luck out there with everything that you guys do. I'll see you guys out there for round number 4.